Welcome to another live stream, everyone. Please do me a favor. As always, let me know if you can see the charts clearly and you can hear me all right. Hopefully you're all having a fantastic day so far. Bitcoin's seen a bit of relief from the recent downtrend here. I have my concerns about the midterm here, not going to lie, but it's nice to at least see some signs of life today. Let me know how you are currently feeling about Bitcoin in the chat on the stream here, you guys. Are you insanely bullish? Are you insanely bearish? I personally have some mixed feelings, to be honest. I think the market looks a little bit weak, but with that, let's start out by just taking a look at our weekly time frame just so we can zoom right out. Actually, full disclosure, I did just mention in my Telegram channel, you guys, just to start things off here, that I was starting to ladder into a bit of a long position on Bitcoin. It is high risk. I have most of my heavier entries are down in this green box here, basically just hoping to get some sort of a scalp trade here, hoping to hit my 0.5 and my 214 targets. I don't know if it's going to play out or not, but just hoping to play that bounce here. Like I said, I have some concerns about the longer trend, but I'll get into that in a little bit in just a few minutes here. But with that being said, let's hop over to the weekly, get an overall feel for the market. You guys, yesterday we had a weekly candle close last night. Honestly, doesn't look great. The fact that we lost this support level, this little consolidation we had. As far as microstructure, technically there was a high and a slightly higher high here, which we ended up losing that higher low, but that's a little messy. Full disclosure, that's a little bit messy because obviously we had this little swing fail that we ended up dumping, but we never broke any actual, any serious structure for me on the weekly. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still more concerned with this level down around 98,000. Yeah, it would have been great. It would have been a huge sign of strength to end up finding support around that 111.8K, somewhere in there. But the fact that we're testing down into these lower levels, I don't think is the end of the world yet. But guys, I do have some concerns about this trend. One big one would be for me is just looking at retail long to short ratio. This indicator here down here, it shows that, long or retail is currently about 66% long and about 34% short. In general, when retail is very long heavy and trying to long dips, that's when we have more fuel to push us, basically keep the fire burning to the downside, right? Just a perfect example is right here. As we started to see a lot of retail long heavy, that's when this whole trend just continued to the downside here. Whereas as soon as the retail started being short heavy, that's where we were able to start climbing on this little trend again. So the fact that we do have this currently green a little bit, retail desperately trying to long this dip, that is potential fuel that we have to consider. And that's one big red flag for me at this point. As far as the 4 hour goes, another one, I mentioned this in my last few streams, you guys, basically that we were losing the higher trending buy signals on the MDX Trendmaster indicator because this would have been our highest one. That would have been where we pivoted before getting that buy signal, and we ended up losing that support. So that's a big sign to me that, even if we get some sort of a bounce at this point, I don't think it's going to be smooth sailing till all-time highs at this point. I think we may end up forming a bigger range because just let's say even taking off the Trendmaster indicator, just looking at basic market structure, just notice that we are still setting lower lows, right? We had a lower low, another lower low. That then confirms this as my lower high on the trend because it's the highest point between my previous two lows here. And that's basically why I have this yellow line here as well. You can see that I have my eye on a little bit of a wedge here. I don't even have 3 touch points on either side at this point. I'm just kind of watching for something to form in that wedge. Not super important at this time. I've just kind of got my eye on it. However, this lower high structure here, I do take that somewhat serious here as well. Just zooming out, or zooming in rather, to the 1 hour. You can see with the Trendmaster, and this is something I pointed out the other day, again, just looking at that MDX Trendmaster, right? The fact that we ended up printing a significantly lower sell signal, another lower sell signal. So we're also printing lower buy signals. This is just basically how I like to use the Trendmaster indicator for Well, just doing exactly what it says, right? Trend master. So I'm just using it to help point out the trend to me. And currently, even on the 1 hour, the 1 hour and lower, I'm starting to see signs of life, which is nice because generally you're going to see the shorter time frames start to flip, and then the midterm time frames start to flip, and then the longer. So I'm glad to see the lower time frame showing some signs of life, but it's got a lot of work to do. The only bit of bullishness that I can see on the hourly right now is I'm actually going to change the colors here just so it's a little easier to see. But technically, well, just back here, I guess, is what I'm going for, is the fact that we ended up actually breaking above this range very briefly. The fact that we pulled back, not a huge deal necessarily, because you guys know that any time frame I'm looking at, basically when we set new highs, I look for a pullback much like this. So that is the one sign of life that I see today so far on the lower time frames, and that's really the only bullish thing that I can come up with on the lower time frames. And that is exactly why I'm taking a stab at a potential bounce trade here. I was very clear in my Telegram as I posted that I am starting to ladder into this position. Just the fact that, I am shorting against the midterm trend. I am looking for a bounce play here. As soon as I start hitting some of my targets, then I can start considering basically, well, for one, obviously I have partial take profit set, a quarter at each of those, but then also updating my stop loss if I end up hitting those. Basically before I end up hitting the rest of my entries, basically. So that's kind of what I'm watching for right now. So I would love to see some strength from the bulls come in, give us some sort of short-lived bounce. But again, I just have my concerns overall that if we do, and again, that's a big if. I'm basically looking for a tight invalidation setup, very tight stop loss on that kind of a long setup. But if we do get some sort of a bounce, I mean, we're going to have so much resistance up ahead. Not to say we can't break it. The bulls could come around and show us a whole bunch of strength. Absolutely possible. But just understand that we have so much structure on different time frames that now will have potential resistance for us. The main one for me, just starting at around 112K, because that would be basically my my Stuber fib, right? That would be my 786 on the current 1 hour trend. Bringing up the ALGO master, this has actually changed. Maybe it was on the 4 hour. Oh, no, it has actually changed slightly. Just before doing this, starting this video on the 1 hour, when I brought up the ALGO masters, auto Stuber fibs, it actually had that same bearish one on the 1 hour for me right there. So it's not there anymore. However, I would still consider it valid. And again, just because the basic market structure for what it is, like I said, we have low, lower, low, lower, high. That's kind of the 1 hour, the 4 hour. That's the structure that I'm concerned about right now. So yeah, basically good news is there's signs of life. The fact that we broke some structure on the 1 hour like this, love to see that. At this point, we need to see this support hold. Basically, if it doesn't, that's where I think it's quite likely that we see a much bigger tumble. And basically, I'd be looking for, testing support on this much bigger range, basically from where we got our last significant pivot point in the market down here around 98.2K approximately. Basically anywhere from there up towards 104K, even a little bit higher than the 786 there. My purple box here, basically, that's where I would start looking for potential support, basically, if we don't hold where the market is currently finding support. Obviously, it can form new structure. Let's say it invalidates where it is right now, but then ends up reversing before this because it ends up breaking a micro lower high on the trend or whatever. So be it. But at this point, that's basically what I'm looking for. Either we're holding support right now, or we're going to drop down to that significantly lower support level. So that's kind of what's on my radar right now. Yeah, how are you all feeling about the market? And you guys can hear me and you can see everything all right, I believe. Nobody's saying they have any issues or anything. Mihao, Eugenia, Matt, good to see you guys. Thank you for being here with me once again. Always love doing these with you guys. So yeah, basically with Bitcoin right now, I'm hoping that laddering into this position. I mean, at this point, I would have a much better position if we dipped down into this box really quickly. But at the same time, it's always nice and good on the nerves and good on your emotions if you can enter a trade and it very quickly goes and starts hitting your profits. So I'm good with either way at this point. But yeah, basically, I don't want to see us drop below 106.7K approximately. That's where I would start to have concerns about this trend and just thinking that it's going to continue to the downtrend for now. And honestly, like I said at the start, I do think that we're going to see lower. It's just that I'm hoping we get some sort of a bounce play here. And then, you know, if we can get up towards or bigger resistance, for example, then I could start looking for short plays again at this point. But I just don't want to short right into support like this. So even if I'm wrong and we don't get a bounce here, I would still just never like to sell right into support. I would always rather be a buyer at support just because that risk management is so much tighter, right? Because if I can hit my heavier laddered entries down in this pocket here, I'm hoping to bring my average entry down basically. And at that point, that's where the risk reward gets real sweet, right? It's not so much that you're going to win every trade, but that's not what you need in trading anyways. It's about having your wins significantly bigger than your losses as well. And in a case like that, if I hit all my laddered entries and really bring down my average entry like that, that's where you can start aiming for those 7 or even 10-to-1 risk reward setups, basically. Not to say it's going to happen. Again, it's just controlling those losses. It's not so that, you know, if it's not that you need 5 wins to cover 1 loss, right? If you're taking significantly larger losses than your wins, then it's very hard to be profitable. Whereas if you're taking big wins, then you don't even need to win 50-50, right? But yeah, as it stands right now, actually a perfect example of that, you guys, with that risk management is I know I took this long on stream with you guys last week. I think it was exactly a week ago today. But yeah, basically someone wanted me to look at Jupiter and I ended up taking a trade just because we were kind of hovering right in the middle of that between my 1 and my 115 fib pocket, right in my swing fail zone. And that's exactly what I was saying, right? It was just one of those setups where although, you know, it's looking weak and it looks like we may lose here, we're still, that's one of those times where you're getting into a very good risk reward setup. The fact that we never broke the 115, so we were showing signs of strength there, and having a stop loss so tight like that, I mean, it ended up being almost a 10-to-1 risk reward. I still actually have a quarter of this position running. It's probably going to get stopped at break even. But that's generally how I trade. I like to keep a part of my position running, paying myself along the way, right? Because we obviously hit some take profits as well, losing structure, willing to take some more profits. So that ended up being a beautiful trade. At this point, if the rest gets stopped at break even, so be it. If it ends up reversing and going to new highs, then so be it. But this is just a perfect example of what I'm talking about with the current Bitcoin position I'm looking at, is just to get a significant risk reward ratio type of setup, basically. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Right now, that risk reward wouldn't be that high, obviously, because my average entry is still way up here because I have not pulled it down that far yet. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. Guys, as far as altcoins at this stage of things, I know that when the market starts to look good and starts to bounce, I'm significantly more interested in trading altcoins right now. But at times like this, like I'm trading Bitcoin right now, I want to see some actual strength before I look for those scalps on altcoins again. And also, there's a couple things alarming me right now for the short term with altcoins. One would be Bitcoin dominance. So you guys know I've had my eye on this ever since we were up here, basically looking for that rejection. And it's still in a beautiful downtrend. This is still great for altcoins as far as I'm concerned. It's just the fact that, much like what I'm looking at with Bitcoin right now, it's very natural to see things bounce sometimes. So it currently looks like we're seeing a little bit of relief with the Bitcoin dominance. And that relief is actually, bearish for the rest of the market. Generally, we want to see the market prices holding strong while Bitcoin's dropping. That would just be showing a ton of strength in the altcoin market. But as far as this goes, I mean, the market's retracing a little bit. You know, Bitcoin dominance is climbing. We're just starting to see people going a little bit risk off at this point is all. But I mean, this is a beautiful downtrend. So even if we get a bounce like this, I mean, we still have resistance that we've been building on this downtrend on Bitcoin dominance. So not all hope is lost there. Ethereum versus Bitcoin as well on the daily. So zoomed out, this is a nice trend here. Although it is looking weak and it's pulling back right now, as long as we stay above my green line here, basically we're still holding my uptrend, right? Because all these yellow lines basically showing where we have broke higher highs. And this would be the most recent is we had this high, higher high, lowest point between the two is our higher low. So as long as we stay above this, that trend is still looking great to me. It's just that obviously that's a fairly big pullback because this is a daily chart. So you will feel that in the altcoins if we see Ethereum correct versus Bitcoin by that drastically. That would be by about... That would mean Ethereum underperforming Bitcoin by about 8 to 10%. So, I mean, if Bitcoin's crashing and Ethereum's crashing 8 to 10% harder, basically, if that happens. So, something to watch for anyways. That being said, Ethereum currently still holding. I mean, I mapped out this range, these Fibonacci's in my last stream or two. I think I've actually had this up for a week or two at this point. And so far, we are still just respecting the Stuber fib, right? We have dipped in here just below the 786 slightly, not quite all the way to the 786, definitely not to swing fail territory yet. So it's absolutely possible it dips a little bit lower. But from a swing perspective, at least we're starting to get into that support level, into some support zones. So I do like to see that. I do consider this fib pull valid as well, because just using one of the MDX AI charting tools here, it's also printing these pivot points. We got our higher high, and our higher low. So that's a valid fib pull to me. That range just has a little bit of confluence behind it. Trendmaster as well lining up with that theory, right? The fact that we still have higher trending sell signals on the 4-hour for Ethereum, and our last and highest buy signal we would have got our pivot at that higher low. So just again, a little bit more confluence with that fib pull. So I love to see that for Ethereum, right? It's very possible we end up dropping down even a little below $4,000, but I really don't want to see us go much more below that. At this point, though, like I said, we're at least starting to get into support. So this is one of those times where even though it looks weak and it might drop a little bit further, you guys, I just personally wouldn't want to be shorting into support at this time. Solana, I know I've been quite vocal about this one as well. I still really think that eventually Solana's working its way towards 250. It hasn't broke the trend on the longer time frame yet, as far as I'm concerned. On the 4-hour, still looking good. Obviously this purple box and this red box, that's just looking for my resistance levels. If I pull a fib basically from our current top to where we bottomed on this little correction here, I shouldn't say little, that was a big correction, but that's basically where my Stuber fib pocket is. That purple box, and swing fail territory is that red box. I would be willing to short in here if we saw some sort of a rejection retest kind of a thing. In that case, I would definitely be willing to sell or short. But at this point, even though, like I was saying, if Bitcoin's going to drop or crash, whatever, I strongly believe altcoins will do the same. It's just that when the altcoins bounce, they are bouncing significantly more aggressively. So when Bitcoin kind of calms down, finds its footing, starts setting higher highs again, I expect altcoins to do very well at that point again. But right now we have to be a little bit cautious, not going to lie. Thank you for valuable info. Right on. Thank you for being here with me, and thanks for the positive input. Better trading on gold and silver right now, to be honest. Interesting. And that's not all too surprising. Bitcoin, it's a little tricky right now. Again, I think that I think Bitcoin can go a little lower. I myself, I have never actually traded gold or silver. I've always been a crypto guy since I started my trading journey. So, but yeah, I assume they would be a lot more stable. Oh, Brian, welcome back. And you know what I am going to check for you? I will absolutely take a look at uh what what coin was that? I keep wanting to say Sparta, but I know that's not it. Oh, I had it in my head earlier too. Um, Fresh Kool-Aid. It seems like the weekly broke structure already, but maybe I understood. Yeah, the weekly is that's a tricky one right now. It really depends if you want to go by a wick or not. Because here I do agree this is dirty, the fact that we have that high and higher high. And in that case, as far as micro analyzing goes, I would agree that we lost that higher low. Um, it's just not clean because I would feel a lot better about that support if, let's say, this wick up here closed a candle body as a higher high. I would feel a lot differently about that structure, and losing it now I would feel also equally as that it would be that much more important. But that being said, with this being broken, I agree that it lines up on the 4 hour and everything, right? Like what I was showing here. But that doesn't mean just because we break that structure, that would actually be this, right? That would be this structure here on the 4 hour. Looking at that weekly structure though. So basically, I agree with you. That's nasty. And that's why I think the midterm is a little bit dicey right now. But that doesn't mean that we can't bounce first, right? And that's why I have these resistance pockets laid out up here, because I don't like to breakout trade. I don't like to FOMO into a short after breaking support kind of a thing. I would rather break support than get a retest of resistance. And then at least you have momentum on your side. You have a little bit of momentum and a much tighter stop loss. But I do see, I agree. There is some nasty structure there. I'm not a huge fan of that weekly candle. Not gonna lie. There is those concerns out there. Like I said, with the long short being that retail is so long heavy right now, that's just added fuel for the fire that we could definitely keep basically eating up that liquidity and dumping to the downside, wrecking retail traders who are trying to FOMO long into this correction, basically. But I mean, like, yeah, candle closes. I would give them a little added credit, but again, I am a Wix guy, so I'll give you that. I generally, if the price goes there once, it can go there again. That's my thought about Wix. So the fact that it did do that, it's just that there is some structure there. It's just not as confident. It's just not as set in stone as if there was candle bodies involved with that, as far as I'm concerned. Because really, and I mean, this is going off something a little bit different, but as far as looking at an order block, where did we end up finding support before we got sent past our highs, right? When we had our all-time highs here, where did we end up finding support? Where did the bears run out of steam? That would have been this red candle here. So and I'm going to include the wicks on this. Some people only include the candle bodies, something like this, but that would be a nice order block. But if we include the wicks on something like that, technically we're testing into that support already. So that's obviously a massive range there, but it's because it's on the weekly chart. But at least we're getting into some potential support already. But I have a hunch that we could go a little bit lower yet this week. And I was even kind of warning in the Telegram last night that it would make a lot of sense, even if for the first couple days of the week we just went a little bit higher, just retesting into our previous candle and then hammer down with momentum. Really wouldn't be all too surprised to see that. So again, I'm just playing one trade setup at a time, so I'll still take long setups, something like this, if I figure there's just a chance for a bounce trade like this. But if we get that bounce and we start getting up towards that 4-hour resistance once again, and then, or even further, if we blast right through and go to our actual macro resistance again, I'll at least be willing to be cautious at those levels and even looking for hedge shorts and stuff like that if we get back up to those levels for that retest, because there's some nasty structure here. I can't really put it any other way. Bite Thief. Hey, StuTube Trading. Do you remember a few weeks ago when the price was at 124K? I told you we were going to dump because I had a big long at 116K. Well, you absolutely nailed it. You got a big short at 115K, so let's pump. Yeah, hopefully, hopefully it doesn't just stop you out. But yeah, it's always fun being when you can pick at yourself a little, right? And isn't that the way that the market makers always are? It's like, oh, here you just happen to test my stop loss absolutely perfectly, and that's exactly why I say, you guys, like when I use, because here's the thing, a lot of people who would be looking at this type of a trade setup would be looking at either longing the shit out of the 786, 886, or even the double bottom here, but then have their stop loss right below the lows, right? A lot of people would have that. Whereas, so often the market maker would go and just end up hitting that and then bouncing, but that would just be a perfect swing fail opportunity, right? So there's a lot of people who set their stops way too tight. And, there's most of the more respected traders that I follow, like a lot of them will actually say no liquidity grab, no trade. Like they need that little bit of a liquidity grab before even getting into a position, where a lot of less experienced people would say, if we drop below this at all, I am out. Right. And that's my whole point of having this 115 fib on all my setups. That's not the exact stop loss I lose. That's always kind of an eyeball for my stop loss has to be at least a little further than that. It's just kind of an eyeball, ballpark, whatever you want to call it. But that's where I actually really like to try and get into those positions down there, because the stop loss is so tight in a situation like that. But it still happens to me too. There's still times where I get just stopped out and then it reverses, right? Just like everybody. It happens. It sucks when it happens, but it happens to everyone. It does look like we're making our way towards my first target. That would be nice to at least hit the 0.5 soon here. Brian, the 3-monthly RSI on BTC, interesting. I am actually going to just open up a new chart. 3-monthly, man, that is up there. Holy, what is going on? Why am I getting these? I don't want a new product. 3-monthly. Are you sure? Are you on a different chart? Because Bitstamp is the oldest chart that I know of, and I don't see anything too wrong on the 3-month with this RSI, to be honest. Because the way I see it right now is the RSI is still in overbought territory, and that's when we've actually had our biggest moves. We're still holding it so far. But yeah, this chart goes way back to 2011. So I wonder if you're looking at a different chart, or if there's a different sign in the RSI you're looking at altogether. Supra, yeah, that, Sparta, geez. I knew it was Supra. Earlier today, I was like, Brian's going to ask me to look at that. I got to look at that. What about the 1-monthly? See, I have more concerns with the monthly just because it's actually dropped above that 70 level. But no specific signal that I go off of anyways. But not everyone looks at everything the same either. Supra USD. I will check this out, brother. Oh, haha. Sorry, I just want to get it on my regular chart here. I was wondering why my old charts weren't there. Why is this new product here? I don't want to click this and have it bring something up to me. That's okay. I'm almost done anyways. Supra. So with Supra, a couple things lining up. One, we're still working our way down towards that super fib target that we've been eyeing up since basically up here, I think. Still working our way down there. Because again, if you'll recall, I had mentioned that I don't know how I felt about this because this wasn't actually a Stuber fib because this high never got above this high, right? The fact that we set a lower high there, we have less confidence in this Stuber fib pocket here. And so far we are seeing that it just seems to be ignoring that support. So I think it is more so going for the main support here. And yeah, I mean, obviously from there depends what crypto as a whole does. Hopefully Bitcoin can find its footing and can actually get some momentum behind it, because I'd love to see support from a bunch of these altcoins start acting as support when we hit it. If we just end up nuking through those support levels and we enter an actual bear market, oh boy, that could be rough. I don't think that's where we're at. It's just, something worth considering is all. Holy, there we go. Let's get that out of there. Perfect. Yeah, Jupiter. Yeah, still hanging on for dear life. Like I said, I really think that I'll end up getting stopped out of the rest of that one, but that's okay. That was an absolutely beautiful trade. I don't remember who got me to check that one, by the way, in my a week ago from today. I don't remember who got me to check Jupiter, but thanks. That was a beautiful trade setup. I hope you took it with me because it played out beautifully. As far as, guys, I know not everyone's into meme coins or shit coins. I'm just going to bring up my two favorite ones that I have been talking about recently. They have actually been looking quite weak as well. They are technically at support levels, but I just want to throw that out there. Full disclosure. I mean, I've been buying these at support levels, but I also caught this one, I mean, much, much earlier. But yeah, it's looking a little bit weak, but as far as meme coins go, I think it's going to largely depend on what crypto is doing, right? I just don't expect a meme coin to absolutely blast off if the rest of the market is struggling. Same goes for Mask. We're basically trading just above my 886 currently by a little bit. Looking a little bit weak because this is something I was looking at, the fact that we finally had a higher sell signal and higher buy signal on the Trendmaster indicator. I don't love that a new sell signal came in. So we're seeing a little bit of weakness there. But again, I mean, that's just spot trading anyways. And that's the Solana casino because meme coins are very high risk. But I just wanted to throw those in there real quick. Ethereum still bouncing a little bit. Bitcoin still working its way towards my 0.5 fib. Love to see that. Link. Yeah, I'll check out Link. Link was doing quite well recently, I know. I know it was nuking just like everything else when it ended up finding some resistance. So it turns out, I don't even remember when I mapped all of this out. And it never quite did get to my bear Stuber fib retest. But you can see, so just looking at microstructure for what it is, right? Here we had a high. We had a slightly higher wick there. higher low, higher high, higher low. And when we broke that, notice that, yeah, we got a little bit of a bounce here, but we still ended up getting rejected and setting lower lows there. So unfortunately, never quite got the retest right up here. I probably wouldn't have shorted it anyways, just because of how I was feeling on the market, but that's totally fine. As it looks right now, looking for, there's going to be a couple different ways to look at resistance at this point. If the bears are going to be in full force, then at this point, basically, well, we've obviously set a lower low, right? Because we had this low, we have a lower low. That means the highest point between the two is my lower high on the trend. So now I could start looking for a fib, something like this. I'm actually curious. ALGO Masters showing a bullish fib significantly lower. So that's just another thing suggesting that we could be going much lower. I'm going to get back to that in a second. But just for the continuation play, if we get a bounce, I mean, we could start looking for resistance around 25.17.5, basically. Let's look at something like that. The thing about that one is even if we blast through that resistance, we would technically still have resistance up towards the high of this trend, right? So I could also pull something like this. So no matter what happens, just like Bitcoin, you guys, is if things start bouncing, just understand that there is potential resistance at this point. So don't forget to take profits and stuff if you are trying to long at this point. Just remember that when resistance comes along to start being a little bit careful. So there's a couple of different ways that I could see resistance stepping in for Link. I also want to just lay that guy out. Make that red as a potential swing fail zone, basically. But there's the potential resistance I'm looking at this point. I believe this purple box is going to move if the ALGO Master had suggested anything there, because I'd basically be pulling my fib from the low back here where we were trending, basically where we reverse this trend here. So pulling a fib from this low here to this high here. And that would basically, so obviously the size of the range has changed since last time I laid out that purple box, but I'd be looking at something like that for potential support. And as far as a swing fail box, so this will be massive. Again, obviously these are massive ranges, but that's because it's a longer time frame and things have been quite volatile, right? So as far as major support and resistance zones, that's basically what I'm looking at for Link right now. Trend master indicator. So we have a sell signal. Again, it's a higher sell signal, and we have our higher buy signal down here. So just another reason why this is a nice spot to pull a fib from, something like that. And as long as this trend master is going to continue this trend to the upside, basically, I would not expect us to lose these highs, or these lows rather, because that's where we pivoted from last time. If it's going to basically, as far as looking for which way this trend or this indicator is trending, we're just looking for the bulls stepping in earlier, right? Higher buy signals means the bulls are stepping in higher and earlier, basically, right? So it's kind of what I'd be looking for with that. Zoom into shorter time frames a little bit. Basically looking at the exact same thing on the 1 hour. Basically, we have our lows, lower low, lower high. So same thing as this purple box that I outlined earlier. Trend master indicator. So this is one of those times, right? I always talk about this, which way these signals are trending. We had this beautiful trend, and this is the 1 hour, guys. But look what happens when we ended up printing that higher buy signal. Beautiful signal, another higher buy, beautiful, higher buy, beautiful, higher buy. This one would have called late, so that one could have, these last two are questionable. But when we ended up losing that, right, because our last higher buy signal would have been right here, was where it pivoted basically. And as soon as we lost that, then all of a sudden we started printing lower sell signals, lower sell signals. So even on the 1 hour, we're still holding on to this fairly strong downtrend right now, confirmed by my indicator like this. 5 minute at this point, I'm guessing it will be quite similar. Yeah, lower trending sell signals, lower trending buy signals. So at this point, yeah, just a pretty ugly trend on Link at this point. Unless something changes on the lower time frames, I would be expecting significantly lower prices yet. Again, those lower time frames, they can change at any time. It doesn't always take long for those to reverse, but just at this point, these are kind of the key levels that I'm looking at is all. Habu is catching up on the video. Think there is substantial risk in the markets. I agree 100%. Very risky out there right now. Interest rates will probably bring a relief rally. I've heard a lot of rumors about interest rates are likely going to get dropped or rates are getting cut, whatever. I personally don't trade news. However, if the charts line up with that and, you know, a bullish factor like that happens and the chart starts trending bullishly again, then great. That's added confluence kind of a thing. And I mean, realistically, if there's rate cuts, we should see the market pump to the upside. My only concern with that, you guys, is that everybody's expecting that. And at a certain point, when things become too obvious, things get factored in ahead of time. And I just have a bad feeling that after rates actually get cut, we might see a very short-lived hype pump out of it, but then leading to the markets planning for the inflation that's going to cost, like moving forward, basically cost and cause. Again, I'm not a fundamentals guy, so take that with a grain of salt. That's just a gut feeling on fundamentals. I'd rather trade the charts either way, but oh, nice. Speaking of trading the charts, you guys, we have hit my first target on that long. Love it. I'm going to cancel my other orders for now and actually bump my stop loss to break even on the rest, just because things are so dicey right now. Beautiful. Yeah, like I said, the midterm, I personally have my concerns about, but there was opportunity for a potential bounce play here, and I took it even though it was against the midterm, and that's just because obvious structure, right? There's nothing magical to this. This was just a typical Stuber fib setup, which I show all the time in my Telegram channel, you guys. For those of you interested in trading based on charts and you want to see more examples of my strategy, some of my trade setup ideas, more examples of how I view the market and structure in general, you just want more of my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor and get in my Telegram by scanning the QR code or clicking the link in the description down below. The sign up bot should make things as painless as possible to get signed up to BloFin, which grants free access to my private group with a $300 deposit. This is not a form of payment of any kind. This is your own money to trade within your new account. If you already have a BloFin account, you can contact the Financial Summit team on Telegram for assistance, and you can change your user ID basically and get you in the group easy peasy. That being said, guys, actually as well, my partners at BloFin are currently giving this newcomer promo basically for people who are interested in giving BloFin a try, giving my Telegram channel a try and all that sort of stuff. This promo will be active, well, basically from today until October 1st. So if that's something that interests you or somebody you may know that may be interested in such a thing, do yourselves a favor, get in there. And yeah, like I said, just examples of looking at the charts, right? Just I showed a couple of Stuber setups on Bitcoin as well as Solana yesterday in the channel there, and how they kind of played out overnight as well. Just very similar setups to exactly this setup that I took here at the start of the stream, basically. Well, those of you who are in the Telegram were aware that I was taking this before I started the stream. I let them know, and then I started the stream, basically. So hopefully some of you guys were able to catch that. Beautiful trade so far. Took Stu a while to flip full bull, and now we're going full nuclear. Kinda. The thing is, I still think that altcoins will make a nice push, and I'm still bullish on them. But even right now, like midterm, I honestly, midterm right now, I feel bearish on Bitcoin, but I will still play a bullish situation like this just because the opportunity is there. Right now, I don't really feel overly strong about one way or the other, very bullish or very bearish. I strongly believe that there will be a further push to the upside with many altcoins. I would not be surprised if Bitcoin has topped or got very close to a top already. Very happy to be wrong on that, but that's just how I feel. I feel like even if Bitcoin goes higher, I feel like it's not going to be much higher. If it just ends up trading sideways in a big range, something like this, then I would think that that would be a beautiful setup for Ethereum, Solana, other altcoins in general, meme coins to go absolutely nuts if Bitcoin would do something like that. So we will have to see what happens there. 50K soon. I hope so. I hope so, bro. I don't know. I don't know if we'll hit that this cycle or not. I see no reason why we couldn't. It's just that, at this point, it wouldn't really shock me either way. Um, Trading Bitcoin with leverage, I mean, it doesn't really matter which direction it goes, as long as you can execute a strategy and repeat it. And just, like me, for example, I like to take my scalp profits quickly. And then after that, even if I'm wrong, hey, at least I took some profits on it, even if I was wrong. If I'm right, then you catch that home run trade as well with that scalp. Just added bonus there. But yeah, very curious to see what the market does. Obviously, nobody knows for sure what's going to happen. All we can do is play those probabilities and have invalidations in mind. That's another thing, right? One of the best things you can do for yourself in trading is acknowledging that you may be wrong. No matter how certain you are of something, you could be wrong. So always know what worst case scenario is for you. I feel like Bitcoin's kind of past the point of people just throwing in a little bit of money and getting rich. I think at this point, that's a little bit of hopium unless you're trading it. And that goes for spot trading or leverage trading, whatever, as long as you're trading well. And obviously meme coins and altcoins are very high risk as well, but they have potential to expand their market cap significantly more, so you can get those higher X returns. But the thing is, when the bear market comes and when those bearish trends come, altcoins, meme coins, all those kind of things, they get absolutely hammered. Honestly, when the bear market comes, I'm kind of excited for, I'm going to call it meme coin season. But it's going to be to the dank that, to the upside, there's a lot of meme coins that have done great this cycle, and there's a lot of money to be made playing meme coins and low caps and stuff. But you still have to kind of get lucky, unlike other market cycles where you could just basically buy and hold anything. This market cycle is so diluted that it's different. Everyone wanted this cycle to be different, and it happened not the way they wanted. But yeah, I think the thing is, the odd coin does very well in the bull market right now, but they're all going to get absolutely hammered in the bear market. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun to trade. But that's a little different than Bitcoin, obviously. I'm excited to short Bitcoin too. There's a special feeling to shorting and making money when the market's going down and you're making money anyways, and there's full panic going on, but you understand what's happening and why you're making money. That's pretty exciting. It's pretty fun. But obviously just hodling a massive long that just keeps going and 100% is not the maximum it can go in that direction. That's a great feeling too. You insist on the order books being the reason coins aren't trading higher. Yeah, there's just not not enough buys compared to the sells, I guess. So yeah, Hoping this Bitcoin long can eventually hit my target as well. I always front run my fibs a little bit with my targets as well, just because it always sucks if you get real close and don't quite hit your target. So I always front run my take profit targets, just like I leave a little extra wiggle room for my stop losses. Just personal preference there. But yeah, basically I'm hoping to work our way up towards 109.250 approximately. I think I have my other take profit just below that. And then if half the position can run and we absolutely moon back to all-time highs, then the rest of the position can catch that. Fantastic. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you found this stream useful. If so, be sure hit that thumbs up button, hit that like, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these live streams. And as I mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram channel where I share some of my theories and trade setup ideas, just my overall thoughts on the market, there is a scannable QR code as well as a link in the description down below. As I had also mentioned, my partners at BloFin are currently giving new members just a little bit of a deposit bonus there for people who want to test it out. And as well, guys, one last thing before you take off, just a quick heads up, guys. Over the next month, I will be slowly transitioning these live streams over to a new YouTube channel. I will still be with Financial Summit, just kind of under my own new channel, powered by them, kind of a thing. So I will keep you guys posted with those updates as they come. It should help with the confusion of people asking where Tone is, as well as it's just going to be focused on trading in general rather than just Bitcoin. Everything from BTC and altcoins to meme coins and shit coins of all time frames. This will not affect anybody who signed up in my Telegram through my BloFin link or anything like that. This all remains exactly the same. It's just basically going to be that I will be streaming on a different YouTube channel name eventually. But like I said, I'll keep you posted with that moving forward into the month. And with that, thank you so much for joining my friends. I appreciate you guys being here. Love being able to talk through my emotions, look at some charts with you guys. So as mentioned, if you did appreciate this level-headed approach and just looking at the charts for what they are, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.